Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good morning to you on this January 2nd, 2025. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic, and we've got some very interesting stuff to get to. Actually, let me throw this thumbnail up here. We've got the Justin Baldoni court case that we're going to share. I've got all 87 pages on the document. It's a lot. We have a lot happening here, so let's just let the chat populate. As you guys know, we had the Justin Baldoni files a $250 million lawsuit. This happened New Year's Eve. We, of course, discussed it, but, lots going on here, so weren't able to kind of dive into it until now. I'm going to read the entire thing. We're going to get through it all and starting in like 5 minutes. So she has filed two different lawsuits. They pretty much mirror each other from all I can put together. Her lawsuits for emotional distress, lost wages. She claims a pretty significant paper trail of HR complaints against Justin Baldoni. His side will share their response to some of those complaints and how some of what she said was cherry-picked. His lawsuit now is with the New York Times. He will, of course, reply or respond to what she alleged from her lawsuit separately. Initially, a lot of chatter that I read said, well, his lawsuit is just for PR reasons. It won't get seen by the court. It's just their way to share publicly their response. Maybe, honestly, not a legal expert. I know you guys know that. So we'll have to see. I'd love to know in the comment section. But I think here's what I think this is what our community does best. I truly mean this. Going all the way back to trials we covered years ago, including the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, I said, look, we're going to just try to sift through this information and then we can come to our judgments. We don't need to be strongly on one side, strongly on the other. It actually doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your opinion is or what my opinion is, as long as we're trying our best to sift through this information. Now, you might say, oh, Dave, that's such a cop-out. You need to be team so-and-so or team so-and-so. What this court case has proved already is that astroturfing, crisis PR, it exists to an extent a lot of people didn't realize. And because of that, your opinions may be skewed in one direction or another. We'll wait till we can really sift through all the information. If you were watching the 80-plus page document reading that we had of Blake Lively, it was very clear after you read that to go, damn, Blake's got a home run here. And that's how it works. That's how it works when it's a lot of he said, she said, or summarizing of data. She claims she has a HR rap sheet. He says you don't. Now, is there metadata to back up that we don't know. We don't know all of that stuff. And you might say, Dave, what are you talking about? It's on page 47 of the so-and-so. Okay, fine. Chill the hell out. Chill out. I am dealing with so many people right now that are, look, I get it. Everyone, if you have new information, you want, Dave, how did you not know this? And people will leave things in the comment section. Chill out. This story right here came out New Year's Eve. We're trying our best. To be quite honest, I should be on an island somewhere having a Mai Tai. You know what I mean? I'm here. I'm trying my best. We had on the Rush Hour podcast this morning discussed all of the very tragic stuff going on in New Orleans with the attack there. And someone commented, Dave, this information's old, blah, blah, blah. Okay, sorry. I worked on this till 2 a.m. You know what I mean? I got an 8-month-old. I didn't sleep much. I'm not saying this to guilt people. Chill the hell out. Chill the hell out. Hello, Angela. Good morning. Barbie, how are you? Hello, everyone else. PMD says, I think they both are using public opinion as PR. It's a PR war. Well, totally. I mean, in the end of the day, what is worth more to them than $250 million? Like, tell you this right now. Justin Baldoni, sure, he would like that $250 million, but what he really wants is the ability to work. Now, is he a creep? Well, either one of them could have issues that might be the cause for some of what's going on here. There may be a story, and again, I'm going to share both sides, and you might say, Dave, don't both sides this. What am I supposed to do? Bachelor podcaster Nick Viall was very much on Team Blake after reading that her initial attack at him. It's like, sure, yeah, it looks bad for him, absolutely, but like, let's just wait and see. Now, I still think if I had to place money, if I was investing in either Blake or Justin, I would invest in her to have a better career moving forward than him, because she's part of a more powerful duo in Hollywood, her and Ryan Reynolds. I mean, he's gigantic. WME dropped Justin Baldoni. They said it wasn't because they were pressured by Ryan Reynolds, but pressured or not, obviously, if you have a war between two relative A-listers, you're going to probably side with the one that butters your bread. Teresa said the facts change by the hour anyway. Absolutely. So shall we get into it? I do have I believe it's showing up. I have a super chat goal of 10 super chats, and that'll unlock an extra half an hour on this live. So again, we'll see what happens with that. I'm trying to use these new tools we have here on YouTube. We discussed this morning and shared that there were some receipts floating around, and thanks to all y'all's, actually someone in the Patreon hooked it up, but thank you for whoever got me the full document here. So we're going to go right into it, and I'm going to read it for you guys. Let me just make sure I've got everything pulled up here on my different screens. Happy New Year's, by the way, if I didn't say it already. Happy New Year's to you out there. Now, it's not every day we do a live stream. Someday, most days we make 10, 15-minute, bite-sized content. This just isn't it. Clear your schedule. This is a long 87 pages. I'm going to try to, sift through this. Stephanie said, Teresa, exactly. And from whose mouth it's coming from? A live news conference was happening at the same time. People were stating opposing facts on Twitter yesterday. Yeah. So it is, there's just, take it for what it's worth. So here is his complaint. At Wayfarer Studios, which is, all these other people plus Justin Baldoni, the agency group, the PR people, Jennifer Abel, these are going to be the big names. Jennifer Abel, was his PR person. She already posted publicly or within like a PR community saying like, wait, there's more to the story, blah, blah, blah. And everyone said, oh, shut up. But it's like her brand is on the line. Melissa Nathan's brand is on the line. And of course, Justin Baldoni here, saying that they're suing the New York Times. Again, he'll have a response to Blake's lawsuit against him. She sued him for, I believe, sexual harassment and emotional distress. Well, here's a complaint for damages for libel, false light invasion of privacy, promissory fraud, and breach of implied in fact contract. Demand for jury trial. So, yeah, they want this. I mean, look, and when this is what's great about our country. You have the chance to defend yourself. So that's exactly what he's going to do. Now, in this case, he's not the defendant. He's the plaintiff here. But he's defending himself through public relations to say, no, what you saw was wrong. All right, so let's just barrel through this. Plaintiffs, Wayfarer Studios, Justin Baldoni, James Heath, Steve Sarowitz, Melissa Nathan, the agency group, Jennifer Abel, RWA Communications, Jed Wallace, and Street Relations, collectively plaintiffs. I'll refer to them as Justin Baldoni or plaintiff. By and through their counsel hereby bring the following causes of action against defendants, the New York Times Company, inclusive defendants with knowledge as to themselves and otherwise on information and belief, claim and allege as follows. Introduction. At 9:46 p.m. on Friday, December 20th, New York Times reporter Megan Twohey requests plaintiff's response to an imminent 4,000-word bombshell story concerning their alleged orchestration of a smear campaign targeting Blake Lively, purportedly in response to Lively's disclosure of concerns about the working environment on the set of It Ends With Us, the film. The film's production company, Wayfarer, its principals, Baldoni and Heath, and its public relations reps, Nathan and Abel, were asked to provide on-the-record comment and to notify the Times of any inaccuracies by noon the next day on December 21st, a mere 14 hours overnight. Plaintiff's representative promptly denied Lively's accusations as reported by The Times and criticized both Lively and The Times' reliance on cherry-picked and altered communications, stripped of necessary context and deliberately spliced to mislead. Now, at this point, we're thinking, oh boy, if what they shared was splice altered, I think that's worse than cherry-picked. Anything can be cherry-picked, but if it's spliced or altered coming from the news organizations, that's not good. And there's actually an emoji that they left out, which actually could be the $250 million emoji. Hey, thanks already for the super chat. Rochelle Taylor, $5. Did we decide that we are called your Davers? Sure, call them the Davers. Jenna with $5, thank you, says, hey Dave, thanks for your hard work. Happy New Year's. Did Augie like the DJ toy? Jenna, did you give that DJ toy? Is that from you? He loves it. He absolutely loves it. It's I can hear it playing in the background. You got my son a DJ toy. Despite its claim to have reviewed these along with other documents, The Times relied almost entirely on Blake Lively's unverified and self-serving narrative, lifting it nearly verbatim while disregarding an abundance of evidence that contradicted her claims and exposed her true motives. But The Times did not care. Given the breadth of the article and the coordinated drop, it is readily apparent that The Times had been quietly working in concert with Lively's team for weeks or months. The Times participated actively in the legal maneuvering at the heart of Lively's strategy. Notably, Blake Lively chose not to file a lawsuit against Baldoni, Wayfair, or any of the plaintiffs, a choice that spared her from the scrutiny of the discovery process, including answering questions under oath and producing her communications. This decision was no accident. First, her administrative complaint is rife with blatant falsehoods and egregious misrepresentations that would have subjected her to dismissal, if not sanctions. Second, pursuing formal legal action would have derailed her true objective, an orchestrated campaign to rehab her public image. So they're claiming here that she didn't want discovery, but she did sue for sexual harassment. So I'm not entirely sure what that's all about. Maybe she doesn't have to go under oath in that lawsuit. I'm not sure. I mean, I would be very interested to hear what she has to say under oath. Instead, Blake Lively filed a request for a right to sue letter. Oh, I understand. A right to sue. Now, but she did just sue him for emotional distress in New York, so I don't know if that changes things here. A right to sue letter with the California Civil Rights Department, a procedural formality that does not require pleadings, remains confidential unless leaked, as it was here, and crucially does not subject the complainant to discovery. While such a letter can precede a lawsuit, it is clear that litigation was never her ultimate goal. Her real intention was to weaponize the appearance of legitimacy conferred by a numbered legal document to launch salacious, headline-grabbing allegations and reshape her public persona at the expense of the plaintiffs. Now, that all might be true, but if she's telling the truth, then so be it. That's what it will come down to. Lively found willing allies at the New York Times, which uncritically embraced her CRD complaint as fact and disregarded the plaintiff's emphatic objections. Without even waiting for the response deadline of noon on December 21st, the Times rushed to publish its inflammatory article, "We Can Bury Anyone," inside a Hollywood smear machine at 10:11 a.m., nearly 2 hours early. This brazen disregard for journalistic integrity and fairness resulted in an article rife with inaccuracies, misrepresentations, and omissions. I do have to say it's pretty crazy to give someone 14 hours to respond. That's insane. But, that's the world we live in. In an era where public trust in media has reached a historic low and legacy outlets are increasingly criticized as biased and agenda-driven, the Times has chosen to double down on sensationalism and oversimplified narratives, rather than striving for accuracy and balance. It has prioritized hollow signaling over substantive reporting, further eroding its credibility and exacerbating the very mistrust it claims to combat. The article's central thesis, encapsulated in a defamatory headline designed to immediately mislead the reader, is that plaintiffs orchestrated a retaliatory public relations campaign against Blake Lively for speaking out about sexual harassment, a premise that is categorically false and easily disproven. If the Times truly reviewed the thousands of private communications it claimed to have obtained, its reporters would have seen incontrovertible evidence that it was Lively, not plaintiffs, who engaged in a calculated smear campaign. The complete communications demonstrate beyond question that plaintiffs had no intention of destroying or burying Lively through aggressive tactics. On the contrary, Justin Baldoni consistently expressed his desire to avoid harming Lively and protect the film, but also recognized a legitimate need for public relations protection in light of Lively's false and damaging claims. Okay, so this is fascinating to me that their argument is going to be, hey, and by the way, are we okay on the buffering? Is everyone okay on your end? Let me make sure you can, we're got good Wi-Fi here. But yeah, it's interesting that they're saying, no, everything we did was like a counterattack just to make sure that she wasn't going to do this to us. Now, sadly, and if they didn't have these text messages by the PR company, the text messages look bad. But what they're going to argue is, hey, those text messages don't mean we acted on. They're claiming that their crisis PR was like having a loaded gun for home defense, which is very different than crisis PR where you shouldn't be actively using whatever tools you have. It's in defense of if something goes awry, if they get attacked by her, and we'll have to see if that's the case here. Let's continue what we've got going on. So here are some of the text messages that they claim. Here's Justin, circled in red. How can we say somehow that we are not doing any of this? It looks like we are trying to take her down. PR says it doesn't. They're doing all of this themselves, and it's really obvious. Justin says, okay, please monitor. Things I'm more worried about is that we are planting these stories, which is not true, obviously. Now, again, just because he has a receipt saying we didn't plant these stories doesn't mean they didn't. That could be for their paper trail. I don't know. We'll have to see. Just like Blake Lively's text might have been cherry-picked, these could be cherry-picked as well. Jen says, chiming in here, the people saying that there are bots and this is a PR play on your side is a minority voice compared to the thousands and thousands who are calling it what it is and reacting to Blake's own actions and interviews. Now, this is true. When it comes down to some of the interviews, it's like she was exposed as being quite rude in some of her interviews. I mean, that's just a fair way to look at it. We never want the action of the minority to dictate what we do on our end. So Justin was a little spooked out, saying, oh boy, people think that we're doing this, and they're saying, but we're not doing this. But what were they doing? So here's the tag team. Justin Baldoni PR without Justin Baldoni. I love that they've got all these different group chats. They probably talk so much trash about him. You know how it is when you work for companies. You've got here's the group chat with the boss. Here's the group chat without the boss. I understand. Steph, thank you, says Dave, your YouTube content is so good. I officially need my YouTube subscription to keep the ads away. Yeah, sorry about that. The ads keep the bread buttered here. YouTube Premium is fantastic, by the way. It's absolutely fantastic. You can listen with your app closed. You can listen in the car. All right. I don't get whatever. They messaged me 5 minutes before this went up. Tag here in the tag team, which is his PR, shared Blake Lively was really impatient on It Ends With Us set as drama rumors swirl. Tension was so obvious. James Heath said, so glad Blake was praised. Let her get a win. It would be nice to have a Sony executive praise Justin. And then they removed Jen, do not use Jen new number. So they've got all of the different phone numbers here. The article is predicated on Blake Lively's CRD complaint, which references text exchanges between Nathan and Abel as purported evidence that Nathan planted a negative story in the Daily Mail titled, Is Blake Lively Set to Be Canceled? Blake's portrayal is categorically false, misleading, and devoid of factual basis, yet knowingly endorsed by The Times, which claims to have reviewed thousands of pages of text messages. The smear campaign hinges on an August 16th text exchange in which Nathan allegedly shared a link to this article with Abel. The text exchange shows Abel responding, wow, whoa, followed by, you really outdid yourself with this one, to which Nathan allegedly replied, that's why you hired me, right? I'm the best. These messages constitute the entirety of the purported evidence underlying the allegation of a smear campaign orchestrated on behalf of Baldoni. All right, here's the interesting part. This is the interesting part here, is the $250 million emoji. Jen says, you really outdid yourself with this upside down emoji. Now, to be quite honest, we might have to have experts analyze what an upside down smiley emoji means. I mean, I could look it up, but let's just see what they say for their definition. So this is what's included in the real, and by the way, this does make a difference. If you're going to share what somebody said, you have to include emojis. You have to share their full communication to the extent that you can. Melissa says, that's why you hired me, right? I'm the best. Now, they're alleging that this was all sarcasm. Then they go on and continue. All of this was excluded, everything else. So they only included this, but without the upside down emoji. I personally, an elder millennial, had no idea what the upside down emoji meant. The Times, however, was aware that these text messages were unscrupulously altered and selectively edited, enabling both Lively and her team in the Times to propagate a false smear campaign narrative designed to destroy plaintiffs. Specifically, in the immediately preceding text exchange on August 16th, Nathan forwarded a screenshot of a message from a reporter informing her for the first time of the Daily Mail article. In response, Nathan wrote, "Damn, this is not fair because it's also not me," followed by "Everything now looks like it's me," conclusively refuting her involvement in the creation of dissemination of the article. Now, again, just because she says this wasn't me doesn't mean it wasn't her, but boy, does it make things look differently. "Damn, this is unfair because it's also not me. Everything now looks like it's me. Maybe not to you." So I guess she feels guilty, maybe, that there are smear articles about Jen, because she's saying, I didn't do this. You guys hired me, but I didn't do this, Interesting. I don't know if that counts as proof. Further evidence of the Times' complicity arises from the apparent endorsement of the criminal alteration of these text messages by Lively. So they're calling it criminal alteration by Blake Lively. Let me know if you guys get this. Tiffany said, with the emoji, it does seem like sarcasm. Erica says, I agree, sarcasm. Marilyn says, I use it as a whoopsie emoji. Yeah, I mean, you got that emoji with the smiles, with the crinkly face, like that, like wonky, oh, I'm an idiot, the drunk emoji. There's so many different emoji. Stephanie says, the upside down smile means several things to me. Why don't I just let's just Google it. What does upside down this is going to be the most Googled thing ever. What does upside down smiley face mean? A classic smiley turned upside down, implemented as a flipped version of a smiley face, commonly used to convey irony, sarcasm, joking, or a sense of goofiness or silliness. All right. Okay. I don't know. I feel so old. Sure. But by the way, upside down smiley face is going to be the big one. That's going to be the big one that we discuss. Further evidence, can you imagine a jury? We need a jury of Gen Z. We need Gen Z in the jury. Can you imagine 12 Gen Z people on a jury not allowed to use their phones? They might have steam coming out of their ears. Further evidence of the Times. Okay, so you really outdid yourself with this piece, upside down smiley face, adding a upside down smiley face to indicate the sarcastic nature of her message. The upside down emoji is commonly used to convey irony, sarcasm, joking, or a sense of goofiness or silliness. Now, my question is this: Emojipedia, was this already the definition, or did they help make the definition this? I'm assuming, is there another source that says that's the definition? Can someone, the upside down face, sometimes known as the upside down smiley face, has several meanings: silliness, sarcasm, irony. All right, so this was from 2 years ago. So looks pretty official to me that for years this has been known as what it is. So the complaint showed these text messages. And by the way, yeah, when you see text messages that redact information, it's like, sorry, we just want to know the full story. Marilyn says, I feel so old. Me too. My knees just buckled thinking about this. Now, by the way, this doesn't mean he didn't do all the HR complaints. This doesn't mean he wasn't a sleazeball. This just means they've left something out that's kind of important. And when that happens, details matter. So those are the differences right there. And they're very clear. They got the arrows. This looks like a Dave Neal thumbnail, doesn't it? They've got all the arrows pointing in different directions, different colors. I mean, they've really beastified this. In her complaint, Blake Lively deliberately excluded not only the preceding screenshots of the text exchange disproving her involvement in the story, but also the upside down emoji, which fundamentally alters the sarcastic tone of Abel's message and misleads the reader into interpreting her response as serious. This omitted context is critical, as it demonstrates that each subsequent message in the exchange was similarly intended as sarcasm, including Nathan's statement, "That's why you hired me, right? I'm the best." All the best. Further review of the text message exchange, also excluded from both Blake's complaint and the Times article, unequivocally shows that Abel and Nathan were engaging in a sarcastic and joking manner, as evidenced by the use of the haha tap back reaction. Oh, the haha tap back reaction. You can't get rid of that. When read in, I like to give the like reaction. You ever have someone message you a lot of stuff and you just respond with a like? That's like the big F you. That's a middle finger if you just respond with a like or a thumbs down. Either way, it's bad. The Times relied on Lively's complaint and based solely on this exchange intentionally duped readers into believing that Baldoni orchestrated a smear campaign, purportedly using Nathan and Abel as his accomplices. Indeed, the Times, like Lively, misrepresented these communications to support its salacious and unfounded smear campaign narrative. This calculated distortion underscores the article's lack of credibility and its reliance on sensationalism over substantive truth. Now, the question becomes, what's worse, the sexual harassment that she alleges he did on set or a coordinated smear campaign? They're different. I don't know if it's one's worse than the other. I think the astroturfing is actually more sinister because everything that was filed so far that we saw from Blake on set, as bad as it was, doesn't prove motivation or intent, if that makes sense, whereas a smear campaign and astroturfing absolutely would. Tiffany said, see, Laura Owens, this is why you editing things matters. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, $5 from Winks. Come on, folks, send them super chats. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So we've got 3 of the 10 right now. I appreciate that, guys. Let's keep the party going. Any negative press about Blake was unequivocally a consequence of her own actions. Even the Times itself acknowledged Lively's public missteps in an August 17th article titled, It Ends With Us, the press tour drama explained. In it, reporter observed Lively's promotion of the movie has included a push for her new hair care line, discussion of the clothes in the movie in response to questions about abuse, which have been criticized as shallow and tone-deaf. Baldoni, by contrast, has emphasized the importance of raising awareness of domestic violence and providing resources for those in similar situations. So here's text messages with TMZ. Reporter says Blake Lively's little bump taunt felt like a bullet. This was where the reporter called out Blake for the old interview where the reporter says Blake was very rude to her. TMZ said, LMAO, we interviewed her too. Let me find that interview effed her. Melissa Nathan responds, when? Also, what the F? Why am I in this too? You're a starlet. F this week. How was the stunt? And Lively's marketing efforts, which included encouraging audiences to grab your friends, wear your florals, while promoting her hair care and alcohol brands, were widely criticized as insensitive. And by the way, I called out Blake as being kind of grifty for having a alcohol brand where she's sober, and people said, hey, she created this beverage without alcohol and then added the alcohol after. But to me, it's like, look, alcohol's a drug. If you don't partake in that drug, it's like if I was like a devout sober person and preached being sober, I shouldn't promote weed, Now, I'm not sober and I do promote weed, you know what I mean? Because I don't think weed's bad for you. Unless it's in excess and ruining your life or whatever. But, I also don't think alcohol's bad for you if you can have it in moderation. I'm not sober. You saw me shotgunning beers a couple nights ago. I think adults can make decisions for themselves. Same thing with gambling, I don't think gambling should be illegal. I think if you have a problem, you should get help. But those are all things I don't think are a big problem. I don't think they should be banned. I think people, whatever. You get the point. Blake's marketing efforts, which included encouraging audiences to grab your... Okay, we got that. So this was particularly glaring given World Health Organization statistics showing that 55% of domestic violence incidents involve alcohol. Her actions naturally triggered organic public criticism and unleashed a cycle of negative coverage, including, as is common in the digital age, the resurfacing of old, unflattering content. Yeah, look. They're arguing that all of this smear campaign against Blake happened organically because people don't like her, which again would be a separate issue. Why are women bashing women, or why don't they like a successful woman, or why does she come off the way she does? All of that, they're arguing existed before they got a hold of the crisis. We didn't tell Jed to go after the idea that her promo was inappropriate. That happened organically because people saw the actual movie and were like, wait, this is a movie about DV that they wore florals to. Zoe sent me this on Saturday and goes, this is a crazy way to market this movie. So yeah, the internet looks like they were naturally against some of the things Blake was doing, far from being the product of a calculated smear campaign by plaintiff. Now, both can be true. Both can be true. They could have choreographed a smear campaign against her, and the internet could have made it very easy. They could be true. Far from being the product of a calculated smear campaign by plaintiffs, the backlash against Blake Lively was inevitable fallout of her own tone-deaf messaging and self-promotional tactics, amplified by her inability to read the room in addressing such a serious topic. So Melissa wrote, none of us would ever do this. That being, Justin said, this is not us, correct? Assuming the guy we brought in would never do this. So Justin here has a time receipt dating back to August saying, this wasn't us, guys, right? And he's so, I don't know if this is normal, but he's so aware of what's happening on the internet. Like, this is probably why he hired Crisis PR in the first place. Like, you should just, you know what I mean? Like, do you think George Clooney is on Reddit wondering what people are saying about him? But I get it. I'm on the internet. I stress about those things. It's a product of our times. Melissa Nathan responded, none of us would ever do this. No one even pays any attention to this person past 2005. I guess, that's Perez Hilton. Yeah, that she's smashing Perez Hilton. He is not relevant. He does not create a news headline. He does not get pick up. He's just now a troll. If you're Perez Hilton, you're reading this going, dude, what the hell, man? But he karma, he was an a-hole. It's organic. She's blown herself up by her own actions. And then here's another article on the right here, Daily Mail. They just ran. Obviously, none of us knew about this either, but once media goes in, they go in. The content creators are on fire, and Justin, she has handled it to them all on a plate. Just concentrate on the success of the movie, your family, and your next project. I have this weird feeling she's going to reach out to you for a conversation in the next couple of weeks, or he will. So more receipts from them saying, hey, we didn't have anything to do with this. Again, it doesn't mean they didn't. One of these PR people's, I don't know if it was Melissa or Jen. One of their sisters works for the New York Post, so it looks terrible as far as like working within the smut magazine and PR companies. Like, look, I interviewed with a PR company to try to get some publicity for the podcast, The Rush Hour, and it was $4,600 a month. And I considered it, but I was like, that's a crazy amount of money. And I was like, you know what? I personally don't think that PR articles that podcasts get many clips, because last year we were featured in Time Magazine, Washington Post, Us Weekly, and I don't think it did diddly squat for us. I don't really think it did. So I was like, you know what? I don't think I need it. Now, on their level, these PR companies can drive conversation. Blake Lively fearing for her career amid it ends with us backlash. So here's the tag PR company. They send out this article, tag response, got him. So over this, I'm sure Leslie thinks we placed this one as well. So they're saying we didn't do it. The article deliberately ignores that Blake's publicist, Leslie Sloan of Vision PR, once backed by Harvey Weinstein, seeded stories critical of Baldoni, including that Baldoni was a sexual predator, ahead of the film's release. Sloan did so even while Nathan attempted to cooperate in good faith. So what is their evidence, and we might be seeing it right now, what is their evidence that Sloan seeded stories critical of Baldoni? So here's Leslie. Please, as thus info is all wrong. She didn't require script runs, nothing to do with this. She produced a film and got a cut. What the F is going on? The whole cast doesn't like Justin. Nothing to do with Blake. All right, so Leslie Sloan is the worst texter. James responded, like I said, though, the reporting is that there were issues between her and Justin as well as others, and Justin found it difficult to work with her. One of those reporters known is close with Steph Jones because they used to always get Tom Brady, Giselle stuff, and Steph reps him, I believe. I told them she is awful and to not rely on anything she says. Leslie Sloan responds, I'm telling you she's a liar. They are panicking as the whole cast hates him. Now, why does the cast hate him? Like I've said before, he could just be a shitty director. And he's young and they don't want a young guy bossing them around. Or he's a slime ball and everything Blake said was true. They both could be true. Or it could be one or the other. So James responds, so they want to run something based on this reporting, and I want to shut it down, but need something to shut it down with. I know she's a liar. I just need to get my editor on board because she has 3 reporters feeding her BS. Leslie Sloan responds, I promise she is lying. That being the PR person. This will not look good for your site. The entire cast I will have go on record. James says, can you give me anything at all on what the issue is then if it's not her and it's him? No, I'm in a plane and this needs to hold. Sounds good. I'd like to clear this up. So it's pretty wild to see how PR companies kind of work together. I've got this thing on your client. You've got this thing on my client. I'll squash this. It's all a negotiation. The truth. James said, she said the whole cast hates Justin. This has nothing to do with Blake, and now she's saying that Blake was SA. Why wouldn't she say anything about that then? She knows she is full of shit. She told me that the whole issue was that everybody hates Justin. Nothing about Blake and Justin. She said it has nothing to do with Blake. BS. So that's what they claim at the time. Natalia said, yes, both can be true. Carly said all of Blake's old interviews only got attention when her behavior for It Ends With Us movie of her being insensitive and rude happened. Yeah, and that's how the internet works. They jump on things. Marilyn said, I agree. Her actions in early interviews caused that deep dive. And because one of those interviews only came out because the reporter decided to air it. And she was absolutely mean to that reporter. All right, James at the Daily Mail. You can see that Leslie bashes Melissa, tries to get me to say that Melissa was planting stories and bad-mouthing Blake. She also goes off calling Steph Jones a liar, and never once did she mention anything about the sexual harassment. So then they have the screenshot recording. She told me that she did not like Melissa on multiple occasions. She has a history of lying. So, gosh, a lot of tea in the PR world. So here's something that's redacted. James from Daily Mail says, many times she gives us information and then her client gets mad and then she comes back and says that she never gave it to us and it's a lie. I had many conversations with her about Blake and never once did she say anything about sexual assault. I had a 3-way call with her and Melissa and she never said anything. So this is James at the Daily Mail saying, look, she never made these claims privately before when she was giving us information. I had many conversations with her about Blake and never once did she say that. TMZ gets in and says, people story about Justin Baldoni, false about cast crew hating him. We are told cast and crew find Justin nice guy. Don't take as harsh as sides behind scenes as it's being reported. At this point, we're told it's being milked for publicity. Justin's over it. It really was creative differences between Blake and Justin, but wasn't nearly as bad as reporting. Blake's huge ego, etc. is the reporting. Well, it makes you ask the question, how come the cast didn't follow Justin? Why did they follow Blake and not Justin? If you want to be sinister, you would say it's because Blake and Ryan Reynolds are more powerful and they want to be on her side versus his. Or Justin's an asshole. Or they heard Blake's side of the story and thought it was disgusting. Or they watched it and thought it was disgusting. So it could be a whole number of things. Most likely, they don't like Justin. You wouldn't unfollow someone, for the most part, unless you just didn't like them. And for what reason, we don't know. Boy, there's a lot of... So we're just going to go with what's under... what's highlighted here. Melissa says, do you have sources? Blake's camp keeps thinking it's us placing and we are doing and we're doing it all. So TMZ says they have sources on production so that it's not them leaking this. This is being... hey, these are good receipts here. For Justin's side to show that they're not the ones leaking these stories. Leslie says, I'm not paid to take people down. I'm honest. James says, she hasn't done anything literally anti-Blake. That being she being the crisis PR for Justin. Leslie said, K. She told me the same thing that she told you, which is she said that Blake's backlash is organic. Leslie said it's not. She did nothing but help get a movie make tons of money. Justin makes tons. She was kind of off promoting it as if it was Barbie. It's just based on the things that she said directly. All right, so that's the argument right there. Statement for TMZ. Jennifer Abel to others. I'm a reporter at TMZ. I'm reaching out to get a statement regarding information. We're being told there was at least 3 HR complaints filed against Justin Baldoni on set of It Ends With Us. So TMZ gets told there's 3 complaints. They do their job to get information from Wayfair to find out if that's true. A reporter close to set says they don't know of an investigation. A source close to the set says they don't know of any investigations, but there was an intervention. We heard there were multiple HR complaints from the cast and crew, and then they say that there actually weren't. The only complaint, which not confirmed if it was an official HR complaint, was a guy up for a gig on the crew, complaining the younger guy who got it did so because of ageism. So the only complaint that they say they have from HR is got nothing to do with Blake. Reporter says, I'll keep you posted, and I've told everyone to not do one thing, plant seed, even speak to one reporter, even on background, says Melissa. So Melissa says she told everyone no stories, no speaking, no background, which is like off the record, none of that. And Leslie Sloan said, me either, and then they heart it. Leslie says, I need to chat. She says, let me get it to a place where I need to call. Alex says, I would hate to work in PR. What a dystopian career field. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's only 5 minutes left for the goal to get 10 super chats. We're at 3. So if there's any Hail Marys that want to come in to extend the live stream another half an hour, now's your shot. All right. Complaint. To assert that plaintiffs orchestrated a premeditated smear campaign is to disregard objective evidence that unequivocally contradicts such claims. Even a cursory investigation of the Times would have exposed the baseless nature. Yeah, so what it comes down to is, other than what do they have about the smear campaign other than that upside down emoji being redacted? This is where it gets interesting. The Times, and again, apologies, this is going to be sort of graphic, although it's blurred out. The Times compounded its journalistic failures by uncritically advancing Lively's unsubstantiated claims of sexual harassment against Heath and Baldoni. The article, based on Lively's CRD complaint, sensationally alleges that Mr. Heath had shown Blake a video of his naked wife, with Blake's complaint even labeling the footage as pornography. This claim is patently absurd. The video in question was a non-pornographic recording of Heath's wife and baby during a home birth, a deeply personal one with no sexual overtone. To distort this benign event into an act of sexual misconduct is outrageous and emblematic of the lengths to which Blake and her collaborators are willing to go to defame plaintiff. I'd like to ask you guys this. Do you think, who do you side with on this? The producer and director showing a home birth with the permission of their wife, still of the video. So this is the home birth, and showing it to Blake, I guess, for educational purposes. Stephanie with a super chat just for giggles saying, thank you so much. Miku says, I don't trust men in Hollywood much more than women in Hollywood. Justin's side is awful. Tons of torts that are proven with his agent poaching clients and misleading. Don't trust her at all. Yeah, I mean, they sound like obsessed narcissists. Absolutely. Bored Mama says, doing F all means doing nothing. It didn't mean doing it all. You read that wrong, Dave. Oh, thanks. Doing F all. Well, there's so many typos. I'm trying to get through this. The Times' failure to scrutinize these claims or even provide a balanced account of the events further underscores its role in amplifying Lively's falsehoods while abandoning its responsibility to truth and accuracy. The video was shown to Blake as part of a creative discussion in preparation for a birthing scene in the film. Heath informed Lively that his wife condoned his displaying the video. Any suggestion that Heath engaged in the exhibition of porn or inappropriate content is false. This part's interesting because I tend to agree with them here. If this is true, why he hold on, I got it. My display is all messed up here. Let me move this. I tend to agree with them that it looks as though what was shared for creative reasons, and I don't think, and it's just me, I don't think sharing a home birth is creepy in the context of a movie that includes a birth. Froggy Girl with $5 is first time catching a live. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. If we can get up to 10 super chats, we'll do an extra half an hour here. Adding to the harassment narrative is the article's parroting accusation that both men repeatedly entered her makeup trailer uninvited while she was undressed, including when she was breastfeeding. What Lively fails to mention is that Lively invited Baldoni into her trailer while pumping to work out their lines. Now, I have to tell you, inviting somebody into your trailer while you're pumping is not the same as them barging in while you're breastfeeding. Every instance of being comfortable being walked in on breastfeeding there should be no instance where you assume because she let you talk to her while she was pumping that now she's going to let you while she's breastfeeding. So I feel like this response doesn't accurately respond to some of Blake's concerns. Sarah said, I don't agree with the video being considered the P word. Yeah, no, look, obviously it looks like what Blake claims to have shared looks bad, but when you look at the still, you go, look, I mean, when, in my birthing class, we watched a dozen birthing videos. If you're an actor portraying someone giving birth, and you want to, or the tone of like, hey, we want the scene to look like this. I don't see that as being a problem. Like we're all big boys and big girls out here making a movie. That's not a problem. Some of the other things might be a problem, but if we can cross our T's and dot our I's here. So here's a text from Blake to Justin. Blake, I'm so sorry to hear you and your baby are sick. Oh, that's not important. I'm just pumping in my trailer if you want to work out our line, says Blake. He said, copy, eating with crew, and we'll head that way. She says, take your time. I'm here. I'll meet you in hair and makeup. Sorry, I'm just seeing this. Here's a shorter version of... So anyway, that's it. But again, like I said, pumping is different than breastfeeding, obviously. If you're pumping, you might have, your pumps going on under your shirt and you're just sitting there kind of like waiting for that to work. If you're breastfeeding, you might have your boob out. Your baby might be on and off your boob. I mean, gosh, you don't need me to explain this to you guys, right? So I think that's very different. And it doesn't mean she may or may not be comfortable with him, but it's like, you would at least like the respect to, and how are they bursting into her trailer? Can't you lock your trailer? Well, so here's another. So likewise, allegations that Justin inappropriately described Lively's character attire as sexy is exaggerated and misleading. The text exchanges between Baldoni and Lively show that Lively had insisted that her character's clothing be much sexier. When Baldoni later used the word sexy, he was just responding to her creative input, not objectifying her. So we'll show you both ways, but Beanie is much sexier. It's the look. Feels TV without, especially with a crop top in the snow. It justifies the rest of the skin. And also, as a girl, I would check out walking down the street because it washes the effort off the rest of the look. I don't even know what that means. Justin says, gold morning. If you don't have time to listen with morning craziness, here is text. Just wanted to make sure, okay, with throwing the jacket on from yesterday morning or putting it on I want to line up a shot and see if I can just use a piece of the shoulder for the establishing shot, the old cafe we didn't get yesterday. I might not need it, but just want to cover it. See you soon. Now, from a director, yeah, look, saying, I want to get, this is so normal. Blake says, if it's just her shoulder, no problem. If it's her body or head, then it should be me. I was wondering about not having that shot, but kept it to myself. Yeah, we ran out of time. I want to line up with shoulder, and if it doesn't work. So I think they're talking about having a body double. Brandon just landed, we're talking character, no one waiting. All right, I don't know what that means. Misleadingly, the article draws on Lively's assertion that Baldoni improvised unwanted kissing and discussed his sex life. Both the Times and Lively intentionally exclude that Lively refused to meet with the intimacy coordinator to plan out the film's sex scenes. Baldoni, in turn, was forced to meet with the intimacy coordinator alone and relay any suggestions to Lively separately. So she claims he was biting her lip and all of this. He's saying she didn't even show up to the meeting with the intimacy coordinator. I don't have an opinion on this because it's such hearsay. Froggy Girl with $5 says, I used to walk through the grocery store breastfeeding my baby while my toddler was helping me get stuff off the shelf. Yeah, I'm so pro people feeling as comfortable as they want breastfeeding. You know what I mean? And if you don't feel comfortable, that's good too. But like Tasha, she'll breastfeed anywhere the hell she wants. And I fully support that. We haven't received one bad look from somebody. It's like, obviously you're going to try to be as relatively discreet as possible, but like, God forbid somebody sees you breastfeeding your kid. We've idolized the nipple. It's so bizarre. And I think we're in a world now where we're in more of a free the nipple world. But hey, if you don't, but with that said, if you want privacy, by all means, give somebody privacy. Like that should be the assumption. But if you're in public, do whatever the heck you want. So notwithstanding Baldoni's reluctance, he and Lively would later sketch out the scenes together, absent the intimacy coordinator. As part of those creative discussions, Baldoni and Lively sought to personalize and develop their characters, and in doing so, engaged in conversation about their individual experiences. The Times, taking Lively's complaint as true, characterizes this discussion as an inappropriate attempt by Baldoni to talk about his sex life. It was not. More still, Baldoni consistently acted at the direction of the intimacy coordinator. Justin says, just hired intimacy coordinator who I love. Will set you up to meet with her next week for intro. Blake says, I feel good. I can meet her when we start. Thank you, though. He says, just wanted to tell you about this. Seems she doesn't want to meet intimacy coordinator until we start, which may mess up the workflow, but I can still meet with her, of course. Female producer says that's fine if she doesn't want to meet her now. You'll just have to walk her through what you and intimacy coordinator are thinking. I mean, this will be crazy if this goes to trial, because obviously they're gonna have the intimacy coordinator, deposed, or like wild stuff. Despite efforts to craft a distorted narrative, the Times fails to address a glaring contradiction in Lively's complaint. After the execution of the protections for return to production, Lively herself acknowledges that the film was completed, marketed, and released safely and successfully. While Wayfarer, Baldoni, and Heath disagreed with Lively's rationale for requesting the document, many of its provisions were already standard practice. Crucially, Lively concedes that neither Justin nor Heath engaged in any harassing behavior following her agreement in November 2023. She admits that her stated concerns were sufficiently addressed at that time. This admission directly undermines her allegations of retaliation and strips her claims of credibility. Without the fabricated smear campaign narrative propped up her complaint, Blake's retaliation claim collapses under its own contradictions. The fact is that Lively embarked on a hostile takeover of the production. Okay, so this is where they get into what they believe to be the truth, which sounds very conspiratorial. It absolutely does. By the way, 3 more super chats and we'll go an extra half an hour. We have 7 super chats. Thank you guys so much for that. The fact is that Lively embarked on a hostile takeover of the production, strong-arming Sony into blessing her with ultimate control. As they became increasingly frantic and unsettled by the usurpation of their roles, Justin Baldoni remained resolute that they continued to take the high road and be proud of the beautiful baby they had all made together. Notwithstanding, Blake Lively waged war on Baldoni, weaponizing innocuous interactions from May and June of 2023, long before there was any tension between them, to vilify and discredit him. At the time, Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively had a solid working relationship, and Lively expressed no unease around him. Only after the writer's strike had ended and filming was set to resume did Lively express any concern about returning to set. In response, Wayfarer and Baldoni agreed to all of Lively's demands. So this is Dream Team is what they're called. Justin Baldoni says, just curious if you guys have peeked at her cut and if anything has changed. Editor number 2, I have just been told that we are not permitted to look. So by cut, they mean her version of how to edit the movie. And you might wonder, if you've never worked on a movie, what can be so different? When you shoot a scene, you shoot it with multiple camera angles, and sometimes the dialogue changes, and how you edit a movie will change the flow of the scene, the tone, what take you use. Most of the times, an actor has no control of the edit. Sometimes the director has control. In most cases, the producer, the person who pays for the movie, has total control. So for Blake to have received her own edit was because, or at least alleged by his side, that Ryan Reynolds kind of got involved here. So he said, wow, when did that happen? Editor said, as per Sony, this evening. He says, wow, okay then. The editors and director isn't allowed to look at an actress's cut. Got it. Well, here we go. We will keep taking the high road. This is very interesting stuff so far. If these receipts are true, he's not bad-mouthing her. He's going, oh my gosh, this is crazy. The actress, her cut, we're not allowed to take a look at. Okay. To suggest, as the Times does, that plaintiff engaged in dark arts to destroy Lively's reputation is to ignore that Lively had long-standing reputational challenges. That is true. She did not have a reputation to destroy. She was not seen as an Emma Stone or even a Lindsay Lohan, who's wildly loved by audiences. She was not seen that way at all. And the plaintiff's public relations effort were rudimentary, above board, and entirely defensive. The Times willingly omits any meaningful discussions of the true source of tension between Lively and plaintiffs, which was Lively's brazen and calculated effort to expropriate the film. Where do I stand right now with regard to who's quote-unquote winning this? It certainly doesn't look as good for Blake as it did when you only read her side. I still think, with all of this said and done, she is a bigger star and has more resources to survive this than he does. But with that said, like Justin Baldoni, he's only known for a TV show he was on, Jane the Virgin. Like, she's done way more work than he has. So I still think she can survive this, but it doesn't mean that it isn't super interesting. So they respond, this is crazy. She doesn't have a good reputation. All of this is organic stuff from real people making TikToks, not bots. Exactly. If it was just comments, I'd be like, oops, but it's not. Yeah, that's what it comes down to. It's astroturfing. It's tough to prove they astroturfed if these are real people that made these videos. Like, people have opinions about Blake Lively. Again, you could argue that women have unjustly smeared Blake Lively because they find her to be unlikable. You could argue that. Like I've said, I had the same feeling when I was a fly on the wall doing background work on Gossip Girl, going, oh, she looks miserable. You just read people's body language. I didn't have that feeling about Leighton Meester or Penn Badgley. They didn't look miserable. She did. Now, maybe she has a chronic disease. Maybe she gets migraines. Maybe she was stressed or her, fighting with her. You don't know. You don't know. So like, I'm saving grace for maybe she had bigger issues going on, or maybe she's got a personality type that gets super stressed and anxious when she has to memorize lines and perform. And all those things could be true, but that's stuff that existed before Justin Baldoni ever was a known name. So here's Justin's response to the editor. Checking in. Hope you're hanging in there. We're going to get through this. Damn it. Oh, these poor editors. The editor is like the person they've got his vision and then Blake's vision, and they're trying to put it all together. Justin's response. Thanks for checking in. I've sat with it, and I think the best path forward spiritually and what's best for the movie is that I suck it up and let her in. I've sent a message requesting that it start on the 18th, and then we just let her in until she leaves, and then her cuts and updates throughout the process. I'll let you guys know what she says. Thanks for being awesome. All right. I mean, that's a good look for Justin to say, you know what? Even though she might not have any formal editing control, give it to her. We got you. I think that sounds like a very good plan on all fronts. Now, by the way, sometimes this is how a movie gets destroyed. Sometimes the director, their vision is lost, like these studio movies. And sometimes the director has the bad vision, and, just because she's only an actress in the movie doesn't mean she doesn't know how to tell a story. We made a beautiful baby together. The baby might not grow up tone exactly who we thought, but it's still beautiful. That's what I'm holding on to. Very proud of us. Wow, I can't say I'm shocked because I was hoping that you were going to be able to not let this beat you down, and it sounds like you have achieved that. And yes, the movie we handed her was so good that even if it's been screwed with, the base work will still shine through. The last I heard was that she was putting back a fair amount of our version. Just not sure what that entailed or to what extent. I guess you'll find out today. Hang in there and we'll all catch up when the wounds are not quite as fresh. Sending love to you both. The Times assertion that plaintiff orchestrated a campaign to tarnish Lively's reputation blatantly disregards her bizarre behavior at the time and misrepresents plaintiff's actions, which were modest, transparent, and purely defensive. The article entirely sidesteps the real source of conflict between Lively and plaintiffs, Lively's calculated and audacious attempt to seize control of the film. Again, I don't understand how all of the actors sided with Blake if this were the case. Jen says, hi, Jamie just filled me in about BookCon. I know this is devastating and such a kick in the gut. It's petty and childish at this point. I'm just making sure you're okay. We will get through this. Eye on the prize. Her attending BookCon is a win for the film ultimately. And if she wants to drag her ass to Texas, then let her. You can be home with your family, which is important. Justin responds, she's kicked me out officially from the film now. She's finishing it all. I can't be involved. Music, sound, VFX, everything. I'll make it through somehow. Just need to feel it all. I mean, in this case, it's like, you ever watch a TV show where like the siblings are fighting and they just draw the line across the room? You are on that side, you're on that side. Very Full Houseian of them. In this case, it's like, look, Justin should be able, like, we live in a world with unlimited bandwidth. He can release his version of the movie and people can watch it and it can stand on its own. He's going to get paid regardless. The film made a ton of money. He should release his version of the movie and she should release her version and people can decide which version they like. You know what I mean? Jen responded, what a horrible person. Did nothing, can't help. What's important is that you do what you need to do and have the space to make a great movie. Sorry, I couldn't read all of that. Notably absent from the Times narrative is Lively's insistence on obtaining editing privileges and demanding her own version of the film, a departure from industry standards. Even more egregiously, Lively leveraged her promotional commitments to pressure for the release of her cut. Evidence of Baldoni's efforts to accommodate Lively's demands, including a series of text exchanges with editors who were later replaced by Lively in favor of her husband's editor, underscores the extreme lengths Baldoni went to in order to preserve the film's integrity. The Times' willful omissions of these critical details not only distorts the truth, but also perpetuates a false narrative that conveniently absolves Lively of her own culpability in the unraveling of professional relationships and the upheaval surrounding the film. Guys, I've done sketch comedy with friends where we're in the editing room together arguing over how to edit something. It's brutal. In the end, someone has to be in charge of the edit. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying Blake's right or wrong for this. She probably felt very exposed and didn't think she came off good in the initial edit, and that's why she wanted her own edit. It doesn't mean you're allowed that, but you can, if she does anything legally to get control of the edit, sure. But if she makes a smear campaign against him and it's really just because she wants her version of the edit, that's wrong. But both can be true. He could have been a creep. He could have done things that cross the line, and she could also want an edit from the film. We'll just have to wait and see what the jury believes, really. So this is, Blake wants to know when you could be there next week. Editor, I can fly on Sunday or Monday, up to you guys. And would you prefer to be there or edit from home? He says, honestly, I don't have a preference. And so it begins. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize I was pushing this out. 1 second. We could push for you to stay home. It's up to you. Both have pros and cons. I want Blake to feel like she's getting what she wants so we can move on from this need of hers. For the record, she's been getting what she wants this entire movie. He goes, she's getting what she wants the entire movie. And she's getting to edit, which is what she wants. Let's remember that. Yes, and yet true. I don't want to give her any opportunity to say, well, because blank was in LA, we could only work certain hours, so I need more time and I don't really get what I needed, whatever it may be. So the editor is flying to her. They probably rent out an edit bay and do it there. It sounds miserable. Justin says, point is, if you feel it's best and you want to go there, no problem at all. And also, if you would like to stay home, that's something that we can say. I just want you to do what's best for you. I want to see a documentary of this behind the scenes because this is so fascinating. They're showing it at a book bonanza. The whole movie? Yup, hers. Editor number 1. Wow. Was supposed to be ours, and then I was uninvited. Whole thing is pretty cruel and intense. Un-effing believable, says editor 1. Editor 2. Ugh, sorry, Justin. I love you both. Heart, heart, heart. I just hope you love, for at least stomach, the cut that is going out to the world. Haven't seen it, can't. And by the way, I wonder how much of her cut made it to the final product. Also missing from the article, and by the way, Blake probably wanted to share her version just to get a read from the audience. And what they should have done at this point, and maybe they did, was they should have tested her version versus his version and then, tested in front of hundreds of people. That's what they do. They do these screen tests and then they say, oh, yeah, I kind of felt like people will write notes. What? This part didn't make sense, huh? And they record people watching the movie. That big movies like this have so much on the line. That's what they do. Also missing from the article is Blake Lively's demand for an unearned producer credit and coveted PGA mark, a demand that Wayfair and Baldoni were forced to concede under duress, as documented internally. So I guess here is them, James Heath, the CEO of Wayfair Studios, regard a letter that wrote on behalf of Justin and myself. We received a request to write a recommendation on behalf of Blake for her to receive the PGA park. So I guess this is how they say they were under duress. I'm not going to read it. Jen says, nothing we can't get through together. This film will be successful. She has already promoted heavily, so if she backs away now, it looks worse on her, and you just focus on the bigger picture of how this film is going to change the game for you and the studio. Justin said, just find ways to keep me busy when she gets everyone together. Obviously, if the whole cast is making content together, that's her trying to clue people onto there being an issue. Everything she does is calculated, yet also manic. All right, this is very interesting that they describe her as manic. Attempting to rewrite history, and I'm not the one who developed this and spent 5 years trying to make it, and there's an issue with me. It's just mean and hurtful, and she knows exactly what she's doing. These texts are wild. Editor says, damn. Infection in my spine. Pretty serious. Great doctors and caught it early. My body is done. I'm too much stress. We'll be in hospital probably until Tuesday. Then IV antibiotics. So Justin Baldoni gets an infection in his spine. Editor says, damn, then just take care of yourself. If Blake is so determined to handle the marketing on the movie, then just let her. Perfect time to look out for number 1. So he takes a selfie in the hospital. If you think about it, we didn't even finish our director's cut because she intervened. So ideally, at some point, we can take a week and all just do it together for ourselves. But that opens up a can of worms, so we will need to let this play out for a while before we pull that card, and your door will be knocked on. The amount of women who feel seen, that it's reaching people all over the world, that men are remembering their own traumas and having conversations with their partners, that's why we did this, and it worked. Still the dream team. Incredible. That's the best news. Most important thing. All right, so he's planning on his own director's cut. Justin says, well, if you decide to change your mind last minute, let me know and let's figure it out together. I'm going to be there. That's just different timing and holding areas and theaters and all the things you can imagine. It's still our film. Editor number 2 says, it would be very hard for me to sit and watch the final film for the first time at the premiere. Just cheer for us when our names come up. Sending all love. Yeah, I haven't seen it either. Crazy times. So they still haven't seen the movie. This is why we do this. This is why I made the film. Can we reshare somehow to amplify stories, maybe? When Wayfair and Baldoni hired Lively to appear in the film, they did not anticipate she would execute a hostile takeover of the entire project. Lively's cynical abuse of sexual harassment allegations to assert unilateral control over every aspect of the production was both strategic and manipulative. Simultaneously, her public image suffered as a result of a series of high-profile blunders, which she tried to deflect by blaming plaintiffs for the public's prying interest into the foibles of an A-list celebrity. Nothing but an excuse. Fame is a double-edged sword, but Lively's tactics here are unconscionable. Alongside the time, she orchestrated a malicious attack on the reputation, careers, and personal lives of plaintiffs. There are other bad actors involved, and make no mistake, this will not be the last lawsuit. Wow. Now, New York Times is going to want to settle this if they feel like they're going to lose. I can't imagine Justin Baldoni's side wants to settle. They're backed by a billionaire. They don't want to settle so much as they want an omission that there was, issues here. Kay says, great breakdown. Please, let's continue. All right, Kay, we'll continue for you. I appreciate the Canadian super chat there. Just because Kay wants to, we will continue this. Let's keep it going. We got 8 out of 10 super chats, so I think that's pretty good. And also a lot of people in the chat right now, 658. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. We will have the Afternoon Rush episode right after this, which I'll be recording right after this on Patreon. So if you'd like to see the behind the scenes of how we make the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/Dave Neal. And the Morning Rush is already out, which it has all of the other news going on, including the tragic story out of New Orleans and Las Vegas. So they started getting death threats. There are guillotines in hell for all of you disgusting liars intentionally spreading deceitful misinformation about innocent people. I don't know if that counts as a death threat. Guillotines in hell. That doesn't mean the person's going to cut your head off. Message for Melissa. Oh, here's a death threat. Melissa, I have more knowledge than you do about Hollywood, knowing the dirty secrets of many directors and influential people up in the White House, because I am clothed in black. Some of the directors may know what that means. Before you go attacking good people like Blake, be sure of this. There are no secrets those of us clothed in the darkest black of night do not know. And one day we will share those secrets in a forced public press meeting to the whole world in a foreign country with the help of technology you have no understanding of. What? In that day, the corrupt in Hollywood will realize all their codes, cues, keys, and triggers in their films will fall back on their own heads. Do not play with Blake. Time is ours, as in the night. We are above every government on earth and even Nassau. Nassau? Like Bahamas? So next time you want to crush someone like Blake, think again. We work in ways you will never perceive. That's a threat. Flux with a super chat, because you're cool and goals need to be met. Oh, thank you, Flux. I appreciate you. Don't flux with me. Parties and jurisdiction. Plaintiff Wayfair is, and at all relevant times herein, was a Delaware liability company. Principal place of business in the county of L.A. Plaintiff Justin resides in L.A. Plaintiff James Heath in L.A. Steve Horowitz, Illinois. Melissa Nathan, L.A. Agency Group, L.A. Jennifer Abel, L.A. Other Communications, L.A. Plaintiff Jed Wallace in Texas. Plaintiff Street Relations, Texas. Defendant New York Times is based in New York. Does 1 through 10 are individuals and or entities whose true names and capacities are currently known. So I don't think that's jurisdiction is proper in the Superior Court State of California. Venue as to each of the defendants is proper. Gosh, if this goes to trial, we might have to go to California and cover this. Should we go? Honey, we got to go to Los Angeles. We're going to have to get the van. Get Bruce to meet me in LA with the van. I was kind of kidding, but I'm actually not. We might have to be covering this live. because it's very interesting. And we just blew through a lot of this. Facts common to all causes of action. So here are the facts we're supposed to know. In early 2019, Baldoni, through his literary agent, contacted the author of the book on which the film is based. He expressed a deep interest in adapting the book into a feature-length motion picture that aligned with his history of impactful storytelling. Baldoni envisioned a film that would shed light on the struggles of DV. So all the way back to 2019. Wayfair secured an option for the book's rights with the intent of creating a film. Over the next 5 years of development, Baldoni and Wayfair maintained a strong and collaborative relationship with the book's author. With the rights of the book secured and a plan to finance the project, Wayfair committed to producing the film. Justin, whose passion and creative vision were central to the project, would direct and star in it. And by the way, that's the only way he was able to get into the position he's in, is that he was able to buy the rights to the book. On or about December 31st, 2022, Lively agreed to take on the lead role of Lily Bloom. As part of the subsequent negotiations, Lively was granted an executive producer credit, a title often associated with talent of her stature. Wayfair did not request that Lively contribute to the film in any capacity beyond her performance and this credit. So she gets basically a participation trophy, executive producer credit. Lively takes over wardrobe. On May 15, 2023, principal photography of the film commenced in New Jersey. During pre-production, Lively began to assert control over aspects of the film beyond her role as an actor and outside the scope of her contractual entitlements. While lead actors are sometimes granted approval over the general look of their on-screen character, this authority typically does not include full control over wardrobe decisions without input from the director and producers. Nevertheless, Lively overstepped these boundaries, sidelining the production's costume designer, a seasoned professional with a long-standing working relationship with Lively. Ignoring the director, so she went so far as to purchase items for her wardrobe, albeit at her own expense, without the approval of the director. I don't think that's a big deal. Ignoring the director's vision for her character and disregarding the weeks spent by the entire team shopping and thoughtfully crafting her wardrobe in preparation for filming, Lively would send hundreds of images to the film's costume designer during all hours of the evening, pointing them in the direction of the appearance she wanted for her character. The costume designer then had to reshop her wardrobe, far exceeding the allocated budget and diverting time and resources. At one point, Blake Lively insisted that her character had money and could afford $5,000 shoes, which had Baldoni rethinking the entire script that had been worked on for well over a year and had been approved by both studios. Blake Lively also several times refused to participate in wardrobe fittings at the production office, 15 minutes away from Lively's Tribeca residence. Instead, she insisted the costume department pack up the wardrobe department and deliver all of her wardrobe items to her. Loading the wardrobe department on trucks and delivering them to Lively's residence for fittings added both time to the production schedule. So they're just showing that she was very difficult. On the first day of principal photography, paparazzi captured and published photos of Lively in character wearing her self-selected wardrobe. Images described as unflattering and sparked a backlash from the film's distributor, Sony. Baldoni received direct criticism from Sony, who voiced concerns about the impact of the photos on the film's public perception. Following these events, Baldoni approached Lively in her trailer to discuss necessary wardrobe adjustments. The conversation, while professional, took considerable time and was later grossly misrepresented in her complaint, falsely characterizing the exchange as a lengthy outburst that delayed filming and caused the crew to wait for hours while Justin cried in Lively's dressing room. This account, later published by The Times, is false. All right, so I don't know how they're going to have proof of that. Although Justin did briefly tear up during the conversation, it was in response to what he believed was a genuine compliment from Lively, praising his work as a director and actor. In hindsight, Baldoni recognized this as a manipulation tactic, likely intended to persuade him to continue allowing her unchecked control over wardrobe decisions. Lively later leveraged this conversation in support of her allegations of harassment, alleging that Baldoni made inappropriate comments on her appearance. In reality, Baldoni was relaying the distributors' concerns and the widespread social media criticism regarding the wardrobe's failure. So they should have evidence of the distributors' concerns there. So Lively begins rewriting the script. Oh boy, we have so many comments on this. This is wild, isn't it, folks? What do you guys think? I mean, what's the general vibe in the comment section? I'm not asking for anybody to side. I'm not saying, are you team Justin, team Blake, but what do you think? Having listened to me for the last hour and a half, what do you think? Let me know. During a red carpet interview at the New York City celebrity premiere of the film, Lively stated, "The iconic rooftop scene, my husband actually wrote it. Nobody knows that but you now." This revelation came as a surprise to the film's credited screenwriter, who, when later interviewed, graciously responded, "So if I'm being told that Ryan wrote that, then great, how wonderful. The screenwriter further acknowledged, there were a few little flourishes that I did not write, and if those flourishes came from Ryan, I think that's wonderful. This was also the first time plaintiffs learned that Reynolds, who had no formal role in the film's production, made unauthorized changes to the script in secret. And this is where the accusation came that they wrote during the writer's strike. Like, they came back from the writer's strike and there was a new script, which you cannot be doing. You cannot be writing during a union strike. Furthermore, Lively herself began altering the script daily. The frequency of Lively's revisions alarmed producers, directors, and studio, who anticipated that her interference would persist every day of the shoot. Now, if you were an unknown actor and you started rewriting the script, you'd be fired day one. Fired day one. You just can't. You just literally can't do that. They would say, no, read the lines that are written. Disrupted production schedule. Each shooting day was already intricately planned. Her constant changes introduced significant stress on the production crew and financial strain. However, just weeks prior, Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, aggressively berated Baldoni during a meeting at their penthouse in New York, accusing him of fat-shaming Lively. Baldoni, in an effort to avoid further confrontation with Lively and Reynolds and rebuild rapport with his co-star, continued to bend to her will. Reynolds and Lively's inappropriate and humiliating berating of Baldoni, delivered perhaps intentionally as other celebrity friends were coming in and out of their penthouse, was prompted by Baldoni's reasonable inquiry into crucial information needed to ensure safety and avoid injury in a scene. Baldoni, while training for a physically demanding scene in which his character Ryle would lift Lily, asked his trainer, who was introduced to him by Lively and oversaw his training for the film, how much Lively weighed. Baldoni, who suffered from back issues and has multiple bulging discs, made the inquiry to ensure he could safely perform the lift without injury. What's interesting is he also had that infection in his spine, so if that's true, then it lines up. Unfortunately, the trainer relayed this information to Lively, who then informed Reynolds. The confrontation that followed was so aggressive that Baldoni felt compelled to offer repeated apologies, despite his question being entirely reasonable and made in good faith. Following this incident, Lively refused to perform the lift scene, even though it had already been rehearsed with a stunt double. So I think she claimed in her lawsuit there was never actually a lift scene whatsoever. So again, they're going to have to iron this all out. Homeboy says they both suck. True Lifestyle said Serena Vanderwoodson was not good to this movie. Yeah. A lot of good comments in both directions. And again, no one's saying, I don't know. It's very tough because at this point it's he said, she said. And this is why I really do hope it goes through the court system so that all of the truth gets aired out. PMD says, I think she took over the movie and he was terrified of them. And we have to remember, this is his lawsuit. So this is his version, which does include some receipts, but also not, Beyond the script revision, Lively extended her influence over the film to other areas, frequently challenging decisions and asserting control. She not only rewrote her own dialogue, but also made unilateral changes to other character lines, effectively altering the script on a broad scale. This pattern of interference continued to disrupt the production process, often causing stress, chaos, and delays. Over the months leading up to the film's release, Lively and her collaborators consistently scrutinized interactions with Baldoni and employed tactics that fall squarely within the definition of gaslighting. This behavior pressured Sony, Baldoni, and Wayfair into ceding control to Lively at every turn, resulting in her domination of nearly every aspect of the film's production. Lively sets the stage for coercion. And by the way, I wonder if any other celebrities or producers or directors will come out and say, yes, she also did this in other films. Or was it because this film was so intimate and so vulnerable and raw that she felt like very much in need of being in control of it? Principal photography began. Right. Lively set the stage for coercion by drafting a protection letter that intentionally misrepresents the nature of the conversations had between Justin and or Heath and Lively. Demands Wayfair parties sign for Lively to return to work after the industry strikes. Principal photography began on May 15th. From mid-June to early November, production was suspended due to the industry guild strikes. When the strikes ended on November 9th, production was eager. I think that year is off. Principal photography began on May 15th, 2024. From mid-June to early. I think they have that. I think they meant 2023. That same day, however, Wayfair received an unsettling and unexpected email from Lively through her counsel containing a 17-point list of non-negotiable conditions that must be met before Lively would return to work. Wayfair disagreed as to the basis for requesting these conditions, which insinuated those demands were the result of inappropriate behavior by Justin and Heath. The terms were agreeable, and some were already in place. For example, Lively demanded that an intimacy coordinator be present at all times. In fact, an intimacy coordinator had already been engaged during the first half of production, so Wayfair took no issue with this request. Contrary to Lively's assertion, it was she who refused to meet with the intimacy coordinator to plan out scenes. We saw that. Putting Baldoni in the awkward position of meeting with the intimacy coordinator alone and later relaying sex scenes suggesting to Lively in the intimacy coordinator's absence, not only defeating the purpose but resulting in accusations by the Times that before shooting began, Baldoni wanted to add sex scenes that Lively considered gratuitous. In fact, these scenes were proposed by the intimacy coordinator. This is well documented in handwritten notes Baldoni took during meetings with the intimacy coordinator. So we already saw that. Quote, Baldoni's dated handwritten notes from his meetings with the intimacy coordinator, which again, Lively declined attending, were read to Lively at her penthouse, where she insisted she and Baldoni meet to write sex scenes together. As it was, the sex scenes were not written, and it was always Baldoni's intention for them to be written with input from both the intimacy coordinator and Lively. The female gaze that Lively distorts in her complaint, which the Times then publishes, in response to a proposal from the intimacy coordinator that rile, not orgasm, after he satisfied Lily. Lily remarked, I'd be mortified if that happened to me, to which Baldoni followed Lively's lead in what seemed like an attempt to connect and develop their characters. Remarked that those have been some of the most beautiful moments with my wife and I. Lively again distorts this both in the protections for return to production. Gosh, honestly, if I'm ever working in a movie, just keep me mic'd at all times. Just keep me mic'd for my own safety at all times. Lively claims that Baldoni made her feel unsafe when he used the word sexy, so they already got that part. Let's just go past that. So, again, these are just things that we've already talked about in the intro. Lively established what language is acceptable to her and what is not at the very outset of the relationship just 2 days into filming. To use this language herself, then, in turn, make a note of each instance when her director used the same language. To describe wardrobe and character is at best a double standard. To generate a list of demands that insinuate her and her business partner acted inappropriately and refused to work unless they agreed not to do it again is calculating and even extortionistic. So they're accusing her of kind of extortion. Lively also established very early that it was accepted but to be present while Lively was breastfeeding. Both Heath and Baldoni have children, are comfortable around breastfeeding mothers. Lively seemed equally comfortable. Baldoni's wife co-founded a company that makes a breastfeeding garment, a prototype that originated with his mother when he was a baby. And as revealed in a text message exchanged with Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni less than 2 weeks into filming, Lively invited Baldoni to her trailer to rehearse lines while she was pumping. Again, just because she invited him pumping, that doesn't really, you could make that argument like it's not the same. In the complaint, published in part by The Times, Lively suggests Heath walked into her trailer and announced while in state of undress and topless, which is false. Heath was invited into her trailer along with a female producer, Baldoni, and a Sony rep for a meeting requested by Lively. Mr. Heath arrived first to see if Lively was ready for the meeting, and after knocking and being invited in, saw that Lively was breastfeeding. She was not topless. She was having makeup removed from her collarbone while fully covered. Heath asked if they should return at a later time. Lively said no, they could move forward with the meeting as initially planned. By the time Wayfair received the protection for return to production document, Wayfair had invested millions of dollars, completed half the film with Lively as the lead, incurred substantial costs in preparation to resume production. In the spirit of ensuring Lively felt comfortable on set, Wayfair promptly agreed to our terms. It was agreed that filming would resume on January 5th, 2024. On the evening of January 4th, 2024, Baldoni, Heath, and producers Todd Black and Alex Sachs, a rep of Sony and the film's first AD, were invited to Lively and Reynolds' penthouse in New York City. They arrived eager to discuss plans for the next day's filming, prepared with their production materials. Instead, they were blindsided by Lively and Reynolds, who presented a list of grievances that were both unanticipated and troubling. Reynolds launched into a tirade berating Justin in what Baldoni later described as a traumatic encounter, stating he had never been spoken to like that in his life. Ryan Reynolds demanded an apology to Lively for actions that were mischaracterized and demonstrably false. It could be, if you're supposed to believe Justin's side of things, it could be that Ryan Reynolds is just defending his wife and she's saw things differently. I'm having a hard time parsing through all this because they're on such opposite sides. And I would not want to dismiss Blake's feeling of what went down here. There were other people in the room though. So what did the other people have to say? When Justin Baldoni resisted apologizing for what he had not done, Reynolds became further enraged. Everyone, including the producer, Lively had asked production to engage, and a representative of Sony that was in attendance left that meeting in shock. All right, get him on the stand, folks. Get him on the stand. The producer offered that in his 40-year career, he had never seen anyone speak to someone like that in a meeting. Wow. The Sony rep mentioned that she would often think of that meeting, and her one regret is that she didn't stop Reynolds' berating of Baldoni. Wow. This honestly, I don't know who this Sony producer is who has a 40-year career. Their testimony would be insane here. On the very first page of her complaint, Lively inaccurately claims that a list of 30 items was agreed upon during the meeting. Assertion is categorically false. The 30-point list is strategically positioned to appear as if it were a standalone written document. No such document was ever presented to Baldoni, the Wayfarer team, or to their knowledge, anyone else, whether during that meeting or at any other time. Yeah, so that document made it look like he admitted to all those things. If they have proof, that they received the document in a PDF, like get the metadata. Yeah, I like Ryan Reynolds. He's one of my favorite actors. He's funny. The podcast has been sponsored by Mint Mobile. But that would be wild if this is true. I tend to believe it more that they have a Sony executive who was in the room, because if you're a Sony executive for 40 years, you've probably built up some goodwill. And to say you've never seen someone be talked about like that, Sarah said, my flabbers are gasted. Homeboy says this is not going to go well for Blake and Ryan. Again, this is Justin's side. Baldoni and Heath left the meeting deeply unsettled by the implications of Lively and Reynolds' behavior and the power dynamics at play. Faced with mounting pressure and weighing the financial implications of what shutting down a film halfway through production would mean, this would cost them millions. Wayfarer made the difficult decision to resume production and finish the film despite fears that Lively was intentionally manipulating facts for her own gain. So they're alleging that she was committing something extortionary, getting a paper trail of all of this to then be able to take over the post-production. That's an insane allegation to make. Could it be true? Filming resumed without further grievances or references to prior disputes from Lively, a fact that Lively concedes in her complaint. So they say things went back to normal. Lively takes over editing, fires the film's editor and composer, creates her own version of the film at Wayfarer's expense, while the rightful director continues to edit his cut of the film. The DGA mandates a 10-week protection period during which the director of a feature film is entitled to privately edit the film and assemble their director's cut. That's interesting. This period is considered sacred. The sacred 10-week period, providing the director with uninterrupted time. Honey, I'm in my sacred period. To shape the final product. An opportunity to experiment, take risk, and refine until the film fully reflects their artistic vision. So my guess is the DGA has this 10-week protection period worked out because producers would force directors to come up with a cut too quickly. And you go, no, give me 2.5 months. I need 2.5 months of post-production. Shannon said, I haven't watched the movie because Baldoni gives me Predator vibes. I was ready to agree with him against Blake. Hearing his side along with hers, I lean towards Blake now. Interesting, Shannon. Interesting. Yeah, I have my personal feelings, but I don't want to let them get in the way of having no clue. Madeline says this smells fishy to me. I have no clue. Like my feeling, I'm seeing a story where she could have pulled this off, but I think that's also so far-fetched, and it could be that he's rewriting history, but they have receipts here. To win against a newspaper, they have to prove that not only did the New York Times publish falsehoods, but that they did it on purpose and with malice. Virtually impossible to prove. This lawsuit is null. Yeah, it could be. It could be, yeah. Layla says I'm still Team Blake. Yeah, and again, and I appreciate you guys can say you're Team Blake, or you can say that one way or another. I'm not Team anybody in this. Until I can get more information. To be quite honest, unless it goes to a full trial, I don't think my opinion means anything because it's her side that's not being cross-examined, and then it's his side that's not being cross-examined. Ariane Fowler says, I'm not on anyone's side. All too messy for me. Yeah. Madeline says the fact that the entire cast is on her side says a lot to me. It does, but we're talking about a cast that are not A-list actors, people that are going to decide, do I unfollow him or do I unfollow her? Now, they could have just unfollowed neither. I'm not saying that the actors and the cast are that fame hungry or whatever, but having worked with plenty of people in that position, I don't expect them to have high moral fiber. Lively requested to join Justin in the editing bay as a seasoned professional with over 20 years of experience in the entertainment industry and having grown up in a family deeply involved in the field. Lively was fully aware of the implications of her request. Her request explicitly acknowledged that it infringed upon Baldoni's protected period. Nonetheless, in the aftermath of the serious false allegations she had leveled against the production, Baldoni, Wayfair, and Sony reluctantly agreed to grant her access in the editing bay for 2 days. Notably, despite her allegations that Baldoni made her uncomfortable, Lively sought to spend prolonged close time with him in the confined and collaborative space of the editing bay. That's interesting. If they're saying if she really felt like he sexually harassed her, why would she want to be alone with him in the editing bay? It's a thought. What began as a 2-day collaboration extended into 10 days, during which Lively sought to work alone in the editing bay without Baldoni. Despite Baldoni incorporating 7 pages of her notes into his own edit at the very onset and consistently keeping her involved in every subsequent edit, Lively expressed dissatisfaction with mere collaboration, asserting that she too deserved the opportunity to see her creative vision revealed. She requested exclusive time with the editors. In response, Wayfair flew Baldoni's editor to New York to assist Lively in the process. Lively fired the film's editors, replacing them with her own choice, specifically an editor often used by Ryan Reynolds. She also fired the film's award-winning composer, replacing him with composers from Reynolds' recent project. Against repeated objections, Lively created her own cut of the film at Wayfair Sony's expense. Sony later informed Wayfair that Lively would not promote the film unless her demands were met. CM said Nick Vile's podcast was super one-sided. Yeah, and again, that's what's tough about it. You don't want to come off as saying you don't believe her, but it's like they're entitled to both sharing their sides of what went down. Believing that Lively's edits would simply supplement Justin's work, Baldoni continued refining his director's cut. However, faced with the possibility of Lively refusing to promote the film or approve any related marketing materials, a scenario that would have catastrophic implications, Wayfair and Baldoni felt compelled to acquiesce. This included funding a friends and family screening of a version of the film they had not approved or even seen, entirely at Lively's insistence. Having already invested millions of dollars along with years of time, energy, and personal sacrifice, Wayfair and Baldoni were left with no viable alternatives. Wayfair and Sony found themselves in an unprecedented and uncomfortable predicament. 2 competing versions of the film, created by 2 different individuals, one of whom had no contractual or creative right to edit the film, let alone produce their own cut. Faced with Lively's threats to withhold promotion of the film, studio reluctantly agreed to do an official audience test of both versions. Lively's cut and Baldoni's director's cut, once again at Wayfair Sony's expense. The decision was made with the understanding that Lively had agreed with Sony that if Baldoni's director's cut tested higher, she would drop the matter and fully cooperate, and Baldoni could proceed. All right, so this is exactly what you want. Her cut, his cut, do a test. Whichever one tests better, run that one. Unsurprisingly, despite Baldoni's cut scoring significantly higher with audiences in the film's target demographic, Lively reneged on her promise. This is where I would love to see the receipts. Under immense pressure, Sony and Wayfair once again conceded. Lively demands a producer credit and an undeserved mark. I'm not going to get into that. She wants a producer credit, whatever. Lively's successful bullying tactics resulted in Baldoni's exile from his own film, consistent with her pattern of So, was his version received higher? And was it, I'd love to know how they rated the 2 versions, and, it's got to be so hard to do that. You could say, oh, Sony was biased that they wanted Justin's side to do better. Whatever. I don't know. Brittany said a fun trial to live streaming if I got to that point. Yeah. Oh, we would definitely be live streaming this. We would definitely be live streaming this if it got to that point. 717 people in the chat. If you're new to the channel, I'm going a little bit long right now, but I just want to continue to let you guys know. I cover entertainment and pop culture news, the Rush Hour podcast right here. You can scan this QR code, which will give you every morning and every afternoon's news. That gives you this story, all the other stories, not just entertainment news, but what's going on in the country. Today, we covered the obvious, very sad and tragic events that happened in New Orleans and also Las Vegas. And we'll be covering that this afternoon right from here. So you can scan that QR code, or you can watch on YouTube now. So you can hit the subscribe button. You can subscribe to the playlist that'll have the Rush Hour podcast and all that jazz. So he was exiled from his own. Baldoni had no intention of ever making the information public. He promoted the film as originally intended, giving her full credit and praise. He later received word that during the premiere of his movie, Deadpool and Wolverine, Reynolds approached Justin's agent at William Morris Endeavor and demanded that the agent drop Baldoni. The wielding of power and influence became undeniable. Baldoni and Wayfair grew increasingly fearful of what Lively and Reynolds were capable of, as their actions seemed aimed at destroying Baldoni's career and personal life. Now, WME, Blake Lively, they say today they didn't do that. WME insists Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively didn't pressure agency to drop Justin Baldoni, which, by the way, I mean, I don't believe that for a second. They're obviously going to stick to the more powerful money-making people, which is Ryan Reynolds. Lively systematically excluded Baldoni from all marketing. While in Sweden celebrating his wife's birthday, Baldoni was informed that Lively demanded he not attend the film's premiere. Lively further threatened that if Baldoni attended the premiere, she and the majority of the cast would boycott. It remained unclear what Lively had communicated or promised the cast, but they now also refused to attend if Justin was present. All right, I need to hear from the cast. Why don't you like him? If it's because he's a creep, tell people. Share your receipts. If it's because she promised you something for your career, that's important too. If you're a lower level cast member, a supporting artist, and she promised you work on a future film, I'd love to know. Now, I don't think we're going to get that information, but that's what they're alleging here. Justin Baldoni and Wayfair refused to succumb to the bullying tactics aimed at preventing them from attending the premiere, a project they financed, produced, and owned. This threat marked the culmination of a years-long campaign of intimidation and harassment. Days before the film's premiere, Justin was still unsure if he would even be allowed to attend. His friends and family, many traveling from outside New York, were left in limbo, unable to finalize travel plans or books. Finally, through Sony, Wayfair persuaded Lively to permit Baldoni and the Wayfair team, along with their friends and family, to attend, though only under demeaning and humiliating conditions. They were relegated to a separate theater to view the film, required to arrive at a different time than the rest of the cast, instructed to leave the venue immediately after Lively arrived. Justin was also excluded from the official celebrity after party, despite it being an event paid for by Wayfair. As a result, Justin had to quickly organize and personally fund a separate after party for himself and the Wayfair team. Upon arrival, Justin began participating in red carpet photos and interviews. His efforts were abruptly cut short when it was conveyed that Lively was on her way. He was instructed to stop immediately. This is so wild. Stephanie with a $5 super chat. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you, Dave, for your comprehensive coverage. Well, thank you so much. Kay with $14. Baldoni has been advocating for meaningful stories for years. It seems too out of character for him to harass such a huge star. I agree with that why would Justin harass Blake when she is such a huge star? But again, doesn't mean it didn't happen. Whereas Turdad says, Baldoni strikes me as one of those dudes who expects to get away with yucky behavior. I mean, I've said this before. If he has a history of this, I'm sure other people will speak out. And if he doesn't, you would expect people would come to his defense. So far, I think only one person has come to his defense. Baldoni was sidelined as Lively and Sony pressed forward. Baldoni forced to hire Crisis PR to combat her negative press. So this is where they defend the Crisis PR. As early as August 1st, 2024, TAG was made aware of Sloan planting an unfavorable, false, and defamatory story about Baldoni. Sloan proceeded to feed false stories to the Daily Mail and the New York Post containing allegations that Baldoni was a sexual predator. Sloan would also plant a false story alleging that there was multiple HR complaints during production. This, in addition to Sloan weaponizing Baldoni and Wayfair hiring TAG and Nathan. So here are the receipts, I guess, that... there's the receipts as to all of this going down, which we already kind of read those. So I'm going to leave out these receipts right now, most of which we shared. In spite of Sloan's efforts to lambaste Baldoni and Nathan, it was Lively who ultimately stirred up her own public ridicule. So these are all of the different articles that were written kind of slamming Blake. Indeed, while Justin Baldoni sought to focus on the film's central premise, Lively incensed audiences in seemingly flippant and tone-deaf remarks, encouraging viewers to grab your friends and wear your florals. So more of that. While the Times thrust allegations of an offensive smear campaign concocted by plaintiffs, the incomplete and misleading evidence supplied by Lively and on which the Times purports to rely proffers a warped view of reality. Setting aside the unscrupulous means by which the cited communications were obtained, the Times, with Blake's complaint, deliberately takes these communications out of context to bolster a fallacious narrative. So again, we already have that. This is where they're going to have the emoji. So they have what on the left, what was included in the New York Times, and then on the right, what was excluded. Included, we can't write it down to him. We can't write, we will destroy her. We will go to this. We will do this. We will do this. We will do this. Excluded. Of course not. But I told him that's the point of talking through. He has to look at it as an information document for us to be armed with. That's all. Imagine if a document saying all the things that he wants ends up in the wrong hands. The work is not the document. The work is the effing crisis. If it's any consolidation, he's like this with everything. Overthinks, stresses, high anxiety. He just needs to be educated on how this process worked. You know we can bury anyone, but I can't write that to him. I will. I'll be very tough. So what they're saying is they didn't include, and again, you have unlimited, maybe you don't have unlimited bandwidth in a court filing, but you need to share the full quotes. Because like now it's like it shouldn't be up to us to look at this and go, well, what do you mean? So they included certain things. They didn't include others. With reassurance that Miss Lively would be destroyed and buried, Wayfair and Mr. Baldoni directed Miss Nathan and her team to actively engage in the retaliatory social manipulation campaign. What they excluded was she wants to interview one. They show some excluded parts. This is kind of hard to read. Hi team, so far extremely limited pickup on Daily Mail or Page 6. We'll continue to keep an eye out and send pieces as needed, but so far it's been steady coverage. Excluded. Thanks, Katie. We're seeing the same thing. Thanks, Katie. I'd like to have a quick Zoom today if we can. I can't join. Happy to jump on. That's why I was worried. Gosh, it's so much. We might have to cover this another time. I can't get into all of this, what was included, what was excluded. I can say this. We have this document available on our Patreon. So if you want to go to Patreon, you can read through all of this. Patreon.com/Dave Neal. Gwen says, I'm calling BS on the WME statement. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Well, they would never agree to take sides. In the article, the Times writes Blake Lively's filings include excerpts from thousands of pages of text and emails that she obtained through a subpoena. These and other documents were reviewed by the New York Times. However, the Times failed to review and or investigate the plethora of communication demonstrating that plaintiffs had zero intention of smearing Lively. Justin said this, good morning, team. So I was thinking about the response to this weekend, and I feel like what we should do is make sure to emphasize the voices of the survivors. It's going to be a lot of buzz how much money the movie made, but I want to be the one that always direct the back to the survivors. So I would love to come up with some sort of video or carousel of messages from survivors in the response to the film. Justin said, hey, tag team. I've been seeing some Instagram comments on random posts defending me by people who are private with no followers and they feel like bots. Can you please confirm we're not doing any of that? I really don't want bots defending me as it feeds into their potential narrative. We don't use bots. The other team is doing something very specific in terms of what they do. I know Jamie and Jed connected on this. Bots and fan accounts also run pretty organically by now with all the AI platforms. Any digital team these days is far more intelligent to utilize something so obvious. Good morning. Sharing with you a perfect example of why we don't use bots. This below should answer everyone's questions on what a bot team looks like when every single comment suddenly skews in her favor in a nonsensical way. She needs to fire her bot team. How can we say something that we are not doing any of this? It looks like we are trying to take her down. It doesn't. They're doing all of this themselves. This is bots. So they're claiming that she's using bots. Unearthed Blake Lively interview shows her using slur for trans people. This just ran. Obviously, none of us knew about this either, but once media goes in, they go in. This content creators are on fire, and Justin, she has handled it to them on a plate. Just concentrate on the success of the movie. So these are more examples of Justin proving that he didn't participate in a smear campaign. The Time publishes a false and defamatory article based on Lively's administrative complaint. So again, plaintiff's legal reps issued a response, and we're gonna have to see how this goes through. So plaintiffs pray for judgment against defendant as follows: for general and special damages in an amount according to proof, for all statutory penalties authorized by law, costs of suit, for attorney's fees. Brian Friedman. Look, Brian Friedman is not someone to be messed with. He is not someone to be messed with. He is a gigantic entertainment lawyer. He has gone up against major networks. He represents the Menendez brothers. He represents Rachel Leviss against Bravo. He represented Cassie Randolph against Colton Underwood. He's representing Gabrielle Union, I believe, against America's Got Talent. This guy is not messing around. So yeah, all interesting stuff. Any last comments? Did I miss any super chats? Kay with another $14 says, thank you. Oh, thank you, Kay. That's very kind of you. Baldoni has been advocating for meaningful stories. Stephanie says, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate all the super chats. Here's how it's going to go down. It's 12:15. I'm going to take a bathroom break, and then I'm going to go live on Patreon, where we will continue to discuss this. If you are new here, Patreon is a membership community, $5 a month. I go live pretty much every day while I make the afternoon podcast. If you don't want to pay for the Patreon, you'll continue to get this free content. You can scan that QR code to listen to the podcast. The morning episode is out now, and the afternoon episode will be out in about a couple hours. So thanks again for everyone who participated in the chat. I appreciate you guys, reminding each other that we're going to just leave space, leave grace, let this thing play out, and don't judge people if you're on one side or the other, because honestly, all you have to go off of is your opinions, and there's obviously a lot of money in the game here to get people to think and act and feel a certain way. Jenny says, if the HR complaint was false, why would he sign it? Well, because, and again, in his defense, I'm going to take his defense. This doesn't mean this is what I believe, but she wasn't going to come back to do the film. So she was holding the entire film hostage. The whole film would have to be reshot up until that point, recast. It'd be terrible PR. And so you say, all right, we agree not to do any of that. It's almost like how I agreed when I was being sued by Laura Owens. I agreed that I wouldn't tell anybody to harm her. I already wasn't doing that, but I agreed that because I knew it would be manipulated against me if I didn't. Again, I'm not saying she may have more receipts that weren't shown, but if she did, why wouldn't she show them? So why wouldn't she have filed an HR complaint? And I don't mean to say this to like blame her if she didn't, but it's like she's not a damsel in distress. She's part of a very powerful family in the world of entertainment. Her parents were. She's married to one of the biggest stars in the world. She's got all the resources at her disposal. Red Bunny says, "Do you agree not to beat your wife?" Yeah, it's the same. It's the same idea. He'd lose the cast. Kimmy says, I'm sure at this point he wishes they would have just reshot the film. But those allegations wouldn't have gone away at that point. So it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, Bruce, meet me in Los Angeles. We'll take the van. I'm not kidding though. If this does go to trial, we will go to LA to cover this. We will be there, and absolutely, because this is very interesting in a way that's bigger than Blake and Justin, actually, when it comes to astroturfing. But if the astroturfing wasn't done, either way, we need to educate people on knowing what that is and not letting people's opinions be swayed by random people online, going back to finding who you can trust as far as journalists go, and this and that. So yeah. Spike said a video of a woman giving birth is not pornography, so that destroys their credibility. I mean, I agree with you to an extent. Like, why get rid of the emoji? Why get rid of the emoji that showed sarcasm? If you have a case, you don't go above and beyond what that case is. It's the same thing with the HCG, the medical fraud that was sent to me. If you believe that you're pregnant, why would you fake it to make it look more pregnant? You're losing credibility. All right. Well, that's it for me. Again, we'll be on Patreon in 5 minutes, patreon.com/Dave Neal. How it works is if you pay the $5 to join Patreon, I will then send out a link to a live stream and you will be a part of this conversation and we'll go make the podcast. I'm taking a quick bathroom break. We'll be back with more. Thank you for sticking around. Bye, everybody.